Spring training is underway, and today we'll take our first look at what the NL Central has to offer by starting with the division champion, Milwaukee Brewers.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, though, Cardinals fans and Milwaukee Brewers fans. I'm JD Hafron, and I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Follow me on X at JD Sports Radio and the podcast at LO_Cardinals. You can, of course, find us on YouTube. Make sure you stop by both Locked On Cardinals and Locked On Brewers. Like, subscribe, comment, and hit that notification button so you know when the new episodes are posted. Plus, you can also find us on TikTok and Instagram. We're all over the place. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. And today we've also got Chuck Freimund, host of Locked On Brewers, joining us as well. As today, Chuck, we're going to talk about what's going on with this division, what we're noticing at camp for each of our teams. But how's the offseason been treating you, man? Have you been okay?
Oh, it's been great. It's been not a lot of news with the Milwaukee Brewers in the offseason, as you can expect. Not a lot of signings. The biggest signing just happened a couple of days ago, a minor league deal for Mark Canha. But otherwise, I wish there were more news. What about you?
Cardinals are the only club in Major League Baseball that did not spend one single penny on a free agent this year. The only one. So most of the biggest news coming from Cardinals camp this year was Nolan Arenado going to be traded or not? And so far, he is still a member of the St. Louis Cardinals, but that's something we're going to talk about a little bit later because we've got the biggest questions for each team I want to get to. We're going to talk about some positives and negatives. I know we're only a couple of weeks into spring training, but, our keen eyes are probably picking up on a few things, whether it's certain prospects standing out, certain veterans probably standing out, and some people who are disappointing. So we're going to get to all of that. But when it comes to spring training, Chuck, when it first begins, what gets you most excited about spring training? What's something you're looking forward to?
Well, JD, in Wisconsin, we have temperatures, like we have a nice day today, 40 degrees, but usually it's like in the teens. It's dark, it's gloomy, the sun isn't shining, and you turn that first TV broadcast on, or you listen to it on the radio, and my station carries the games, and you hear that's the sounds of baseball. And you know what that is. You hear the batted ball. You hear a smattering of the crowd. You hear that dead silence, and you hear the crowd in the background in it. That's what I love, man. And it's just like I heard that Saturday afternoon. It was a dark, dreary day in Wisconsin, but I turned on my radio station, and there it was. Now we're missing Bob Uecker, who passed away in the offseason. Yes. You'd usually hear his golden tones and the little tribute about him on the start of the broadcast. But I love it. It's just, because we live in the northern parts, seeing all the folks down in Arizona and just saying, man, we all say, God, I want to go to spring training this year. And then everybody always pull it off. How about you?
Yeah, our teams are in Florida. The Cardinals are down in Florida. They're actually playing against the Blue Jays here on Tuesday. And it's the pop of the mitts is usually the thing that I notice first is just the sound because it's pitchers and catchers reporting on the first couple days. And it's just that poof that I get excited to hear that. Obviously the crack of the bat when the boys and the position players get there in the following week. But it's really sort of the same thing. You can almost smell the grass, even if you're not at spring training. You can just kind of feel it. And it just kind of feels like, oh, thank goodness, winter, it's finally over. And, we deal with a lot of strange weather in St. Louis as well. So I feel you in all of those regards. The NL Central is something that it's an interesting division, all right, because and people are going to say it's the worst division in baseball, which I can make arguments about that. I find I'd rather use the word competitive because there's not a team that went out and spent $1 gazillion like some of the other big market teams. We're all smaller markets outside of Chicago who doesn't spend like a big market. At least they didn't this time around. And the Brewers were at the top of the mountain in the NL Central last year. Very good team, solid all around, a lot of great names and players, but they haven't added much this year, and they've been doing a lot of subtracting instead. Let me get your thoughts on your sense of how you're feeling. Are you optimistic about the Brewers coming into the season, or are as a whole, not just a certain player, but as a whole, or are you a little worried that some of these other teams might have caught up with what Milwaukee did last year?
Well, the last 2 years I've been worried, JD, and thinking, all right, now we're going to pay the piper, because last couple of years the Brewers have lost players. Corbin Burns 2 years ago, this offseason losing Devin Williams, and of course Willie Adames. So you just keep on taking parts away from a divisional team, and you're thinking, okay, is this the time that we're going to lose that stranglehold on the division? They've won the division 4 times the last 7 years.
Yeah.
Amazing run. This is the best run the franchise has ever been on in their 50 plus years. So I don't know. I this year I'm going to have to say, until they prove me otherwise, they're still the division champs, and I'm picking them to win the division. Now, that's not saying that they're better than everybody else. They just find a way to get it done. That said, you could tell me, you could put a bunch of players out there from AAA with the St. Louis Cardinals, faceless guys, and I would always say the Cardinals have a shot. I never count you guys out. Even when he got off to that 15-31 start a couple of years ago, not at all. Not at all. And I want to hear you guys are reducing your salary a little bit. I mean, quite substantially. Coming down to our level, actually. What are they doing? They're mixing up something in St. Louis.
Well, the idea, at least in my eyes, yeah, and you're right. They've dropped down. The payroll has been cut by $40 million. The big names that are no longer with the Cardinals, Paul Goldschmidt has flown off to the New York Yankees on a 1-year deal. Andrew Kittredge, the reliever that you're a huge fan of, you liked his look and his demeanor and his beard, and had no idea how that guy got anybody out at a major league level, but he was good. He ends up signing in Baltimore. So those guys go to the AL East. And then it was really guys like Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson, who still remain free agents. They're still out there for a reason. Those were guys that were making a decent wager and are no longer with this team anymore. Now, they did try to unload Nolan Arenado this offseason, were unable to do that, had a deal in place with the Astros, but Nolan vetoed that for a number of different reasons. I know my audience is absolutely sick of hearing about Nolan Arenado getting traded. I think the idea here is that they weren't winning anyway by paying these veterans the amount of money that you're forced to pay a veteran pitcher or a veteran player in this day and age. Somebody with a track record like Paul Goldschmidt was going to command a decent chunk of change, and the Cardinals are like, we're not winning with you anyway, so why not see what we've got in the organization as far as players at AA, AAA, and open things up a little bit. They were hoping that they might even have more spots. They were prepared. They open up even more spots, but they went to guys like Sonny Gray and Wilson Contreras and said, hey, we're going in this direction. If you want, we can move you. We could do that. Are you interested? And both of them said, no, we'd rather be a part of the real rebuild of the St. Louis Cardinals. Nolan Arenado was a little more apt to leave to go to a playoff contending team, but it wasn't like, get me out of town. He was like, if there's a couple of spots that sure I'd be interested in because they're close to winning a World Series, they're closer than the Cardinals at least. But it wasn't like he's like, I'll go anywhere, just get me out of St. Louis. He never demanded a trade. He wasn't unhappy with anything. Of course, he would love to see the Cardinals spend more money than cut money to become better in 2025, but it wasn't working. Let's just be honest. The last couple of years, they relied on some veteran guys, and it just didn't work. They still didn't win. So why not just kind of shed some of this payroll, and let's see what kind of guys we've got in our system already, see what kind of development we've got. And they're also putting new funds towards the lower levels of developing players. Player development has been something that they fell behind sorely compared to the rest of the major leagues. And they're playing catch up there. And they're finally instead of putting funds towards signing veterans who may or may not be any good, they're putting that towards developing their players. And that's how they're going to go about winning. It's something that I feel like is kind of the way that they're taking a note out of the book of the Milwaukee Brewers, who have been able to rely on guys in their system to take you guys to the level that has won you the last couple of divisions. Well, 2 guys you mentioned there, the Brewers were interested in Goldschmidt. There were reports early in the offseason that the Brewers were interested in Goldschmidt. Now, when Hoskins re-upped on his deal,
was like, if Hoskins would have, he had the option on the $18 million and he picked up the option because he had a bad year last year. If he doesn't pick that up, I think the Brewers have Goldschmidt. They were very intrigued with Goldschmidt. Obviously,
who would you rather have right now? Would you rather have Reese? And I try to put the price out of the range because I think he signed with the Yankees. I think he's at 12, maybe 13 million, something like that. You said Reese, got the option for 18. But which one of those would you rather have at this point in their careers?
Boy, Hoskins, I was disappointed in him last year. I think he's going to bounce back with the knee, but Goldschmidt has always hit well at AmFam Field.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what sticks in my mind. I would have loved to have Goldschmidt on this team, but I'm not going to have Goldschmidt and Hoskins and spending all that money on one. So the Brewers did show that they were willing to spend some money on Goldschmidt. Now the other guy, I would have taken Goldschmidt. Now Arenado, the Brewers have a glaring spot at third base. I mean, the third base spot is really painful to talk about. It's been a painful source for me in the whole offseason. Now this isn't the Nolan Arenado from a few years ago, as you're kind of talking about there.
Yeah.
But I know you guys aren't going to trade him here. I mean, I'd love to have him as a stopgap a little bit. Maybe you guys could take some of that salary. And of course, Brewers aren't one of those teams he wants to get traded. I saw the same teams that everybody mentions that, wow, I want to get traded to this team, the Angels, the Dodgers. I get it. Of course, the Brewers aren't on the list. But I would love to have been in that Arenado sweepstakes for just like a couple of year rental on him.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for teams that are, just like a piece or two away, to see if he's got something to offer. He's come to camp in great shape. He looks good. He looks like he's happy to be with the Cardinals still. He never expressed that he was unhappy with the St. Louis Cardinals. He just was like, look, I realize where I'm at in my career, and it's I'm on the back nine, and I kind of want to win a World Series, and I'm not sure if the Cardinals are right there. The Cardinals aren't that team that's like, like we're saying, like a couple of pieces away from going to that next level. They're not there yet, and it's going to take a little time. And some of these prospects that we're seeing in camp right now, they're going to have to pan out. A lot of these boys are going to have to become men this year if they're going to even reach the 83 wins that they had in 2024. Let's talk about camp real quick. Again, we're only a couple of weeks in. We've only had, the Cardinals are playing their fourth spring training game. So it's very, very early still, which I keep warning people about. I was like, let's not get bent out of shape about anything good or bad that's happening with anybody. We can still discuss some of the good and the bad that's going on. So give me one of the big positives that is happening at Milwaukee Brewers camp so far for you guys.
Well, one of the big positives, and we're going to see Jacob Misiorowski, their best pitching prospect, pitch today.
It sounded like you sneezed there, Chuck. What was his name?
Jacob Misiorowski, but
okay,
we just call him the Miz.
All right, that's better. We like that. That's easier.
We just call him the Miz. Don't ask me to spell it because I've always got to look up and spell check when I'm spelling out his name. So I haven't quite got the spelling down on the Miz yet, but he's been good. Vinny Capra hit a couple of 3-run homers over the weekend. He's an option over at third base, I guess. But that's been it. They have a prospect by the name of Craig Yoho, who looked pretty good with his changeup over the weekend. So a couple of things, I don't put a lot of stock in what I see in spring training because I've seen it so many times. I'm sure you have, JD, a guy who will tear it up in spring training like a Vinny Capra. And then we get to April and the show's over.
Yeah.
So what about you? Anything good for the first week here?
Honestly, yeah, the first couple of games, a guy that the team is very excited about, fans are very excited about, 7th overall pick in last year's draft is JJ Weatherholt, who's a shortstop for now. We're curious what they're going to do with him in the future. If Mason Wynn is the guy that we think he's going to be after having a stellar rookie season last year. There's no reason to think that he won't be the guy that they want him to be. He's kind of morphing himself into the face of the franchise, really just a good-looking ball player, speed, phenomenal arms, got some pop, he's got some flair, he's got some attitude. And J.J. Weatherholt is a shortstop that they took who, was rumored to be the number 1 overall selection by Cleveland last year, and they ended up, turning and moving and pivoting to the guy they ended up taking. But Weatherholt falls to the Cardinals at number 7, which was a big shocker. And they've been, I don't even think they're surprised by how good he's looked, not only when he was playing in the minor leagues at the end of last year when he was an A-ball, but so far this spring. Hit a 3-run homer the other day. He stole a base already today after getting a walk in his second at bat. He's just been very impressive. He's one of those guys that, he's a college guy. So played at West Virginia, and he's very mature for his age. He doesn't come off as like anything is too big for him. He looks like he belongs already. He's got the body type that looks like he's a major league player already, in great shape. And he's a left-handed stick. He's got speed. He's very good with the glove as well. Good arm. We're not sure where he's going to play yet. That's the real big question, because, like I said, if Mason wins here, he's going to have to go somewhere else, which was another one of the reasons why, trading Nolan Arenado was something that the team was interested in doing, because they're trying to find spaces for some of these other guys like Nolan Gorman, who's been one of their top prospects for a couple years, has had issues with strikeouts, but they want to see what he can do with everyday at-bats. And when you've got a guy over there at the hot corner, a future Hall of Famer in Nolan Arenado, I mean, he's not sitting out games so that you can get a look at what your, 24-year-old left-handed slugger looks like. So that's been kind of the issue, is they're trying to find places and at bats for these guys. And you're seeing a little bit of that in the spring so far, which you would anyway, because everybody, they're trying to get everybody some action just to see what they've got. But he's somebody who has stood out. And they also had a pitcher that they acquired in the Jordan Montgomery trade with the Texas Rangers a couple of years ago. And Tekoa Robius, his name, has had a lot of shoulder issues over the years, and we haven't really seen him reach the potential that we thought we'd see him at. But he made his spring debut the other day, and whoa, it was impressive, where he was topping out at 98, had some wipeout breaking stuff. Like, we were like, whoa, this is not what I expected. I expected to see him like pitch well. I didn't expect him to look as good as he did. So that was very encouraging, which, with the Cardinals being the way they are right now, hearing more about these prospects, it's going to give fans a little more interest in what's going on with the team in spring training, considering what they didn't do during the offseason at all.
Is the message to fans in St. Louis, own the future? It's going to be painful a little bit here, but better days are coming.
That's what they're trying to push, because John Mozeliak, who's our president of baseball operations, he's in his final year, and it's going to transition over to Chaim Bloom, who's been with the Tampa Bay Rays and the Boston Red Sox. And, his big thing is player development. He's been really good at that at both stops that he was at, and he's going to be taking over after this year. And I feel like the team was really prepared to really take a step back this year and really rely on a lot of the youth to like either succeed or fail, but they were going to get to play no matter what. Like, none of this where, hey, if you have a bad week, you could end up back at AAA. Like, they're not doing that to these guys this time, because it's not a win now mode, which is very strange for the Cardinals fan base, because that is not something that we are used to whatsoever. Every year, Cardinal fans expect to be in the hunt for the division title. If not that, then at least the wild card. And most people are not giving them a chance. And, I tend to look at things more optimistically than a lot of people, because I just see what they can be, but these guys got to pan out, the Jordan Walkers of the world, who at one time was the top slugger in all of baseball, according to scouts. And, 2 years later, and he hasn't lived up to that just yet, but he's looked okay so far this spring. You're starting to see they got a new hitting coach, and they've decided that, they want to find more at bats for a Nolan Gorman, and they want to see what Thomas Ajayci, who was also acquired in that same deal with Texas for Jordan Montgomery, that they got Tekoa Robian. They want to see these guys play. The hard part was that none of the veterans that they were like, hey, maybe they'll want to get traded, none of them left. They all stuck around. They're moving Wilson Contreras over to first base. He's beefed up. He's got, instead of a catcher's body now, he's got a bigger torso now. He's got this first baseman body, has put on some muscle. So he's transitioning to that so that their younger catchers can get more action. So that's what they're kind of going through right now in spring, is figuring out how to get all of these guys on the field at the same time. And it isn't going to be easy. And we know injuries are going to happen at some point. It's inevitable. And that'll open some doors for people. But at the same time, there just doesn't seem to be enough room for all of these guys to play. And to hear that and still know that you're not in a win mode situation, it's a tough pill to swallow for the Cardinals fans right now.
Well, that's like you said, that's why we play the game, and the season. And right now, it's like I said, it's not even March yet. Long way to go. And I think a lot of people look at the Milwaukee Brewers and they say, fans do here in this state, in Wisconsin, they say, well, geez, they're not spending any money again. They're disappointed in ownership because they look at the attendance and they're filling the ballpark up. How come none of this money is going towards salaries?
Yeah.
I can understand losing at Adamas. You're not going to pay Adamas that type of money. But, just to be a player in the free agent market, and I know some of it's got to do with the structure of baseball, which, that's a whole different topic. But I just wish the Brewers would have done a few more things to help out the third base spot. Their farm system, the prospects, there's a lot of things to be excited about with this team. But I felt like they need to get by that first round of the playoffs because they busted out JD in the first round of the playoffs in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
They're winning division titles. They're going to the postseason. And then including the last 2 years, it's been losing at home in the first round in a matter of a couple of days at AmFam Field. And fans want to see more than that.
Yeah, you don't blame them either because I would imagine it's frustrating. It's got to be frustrating to know that you've had as good of a team as you have and that you keep getting rid of these guys that appear to have gotten you to that level, getting rid of a Devin Williams and I don't know what what were your feelings on the return that the team got for Devin Williams? Did you guys like that or what?
Well,
that's all I need to hear is that sigh.
I was hoping to get Bone from Philadelphia. I thought maybe he was on the block and got myself a third baseman over there.
Yeah.
They got Cortez a rental. All right, he's not going to be here at the end of the season. So okay, you basically sign. That's like a free agent signing. You got him for a 1-year rental, and then Caleb Durbin, who's going to play third base. It sounds like, at least platoon over there. He's 5'6", and you hear a lot of nice things about him coming out of the Yankee organization. Great. I don't know if I believe all that, but I thought maybe a little bit more. But then you look at, it's a closer, and closers, I just got to accept the fact that when you sell off your closer, you're not going to get a big return because these closers don't have a big shelf life, as you know, JD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, Cardinals were there too. Ryan Helsley, ends up winning the NL Reliever of the Year. And there was a lot of talk that, maybe we can get something cool back for him. And then I think the Cardinals, when they saw what Devin Williams went for, who I think a lot of people would say when healthy is a better closer than Helsley.
Sure.
They were like, wait a second. And then you go see what Tanner Scott went for at the trade deadline, and the Cardinals were like, well, maybe we ought to hang on to him. And obviously there's a risk there because if something happens to Helsley, you're in trouble, but he's in the final year here of arbitration, is going to be a free agent. So he's certainly somebody that if you flip him at the deadline could get you a massive package back if he's as good as what he was last year. And after seeing what Tanner Scott went for in the same situation, this past year in 2024. So I feel like that's kind of the Cardinals were like, maybe we won't trade him just yet. We'll take the gamble and see if he can do what he did last year. And if we have to trade him at the deadline, then so be it. But I think they kind of balked at what Devin Williams went for to the Yankees because I was surprised by how little he went for as well. We're going to talk about a couple of negatives, and then I want to get your biggest question for the Brewers going into the season, and we'll do more of that next on this crossover episode of Locked On Cardinals and Locked On Brewers. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because with FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss that opening tip-off or you'll want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, of course, you can combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. FanDuel just makes NBA games a whole lot more fun to watch. Don't have a team in St. Louis. Milwaukee, they got a nice little team there. The Bucks have been pretty darn good for a while, but maybe you want to bet on them. Maybe you want to bet on St. Louis's own Jason Tatum and the Celtics, or how about LeBron and Luka in LA? They've been fun to watch. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in Oklahoma City and a whole lot more. Bottom line is the NBA games are more fun. They're more exciting to watch with FanDuel involved. Plus, the app, telling you, it's very easy to use, very simple. And when you win, you get paid instantly. Now, right now, new FanDuel customers, you can score $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you again for making Locked On Cardinals and Locked On Brewers your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Our buddy Sully brings you a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on all the teams during spring training. You can find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Once again, Chuck Freimund from Locked On Brewers joining us here today. And we got to get rid of this off the screen here. There we go. Bloop. There he's gone. Chuck Freimund from Locked On Brewers joining us. I'm JD Hafron from Locked On Cardinals. Both of us are pretty positive guys, Chuck, but is there any negatives that have stood out to you at camp so far? And again, we know it's early. We're not going to freak out if somebody's 0 for 3 so far. It's going to be okay. But is there anything that's seemed concerning to you at camp thus far?
Nothing really. Aaron Ashby, who I think is going to be the number 5 starter on this team, unless Brandon Woodruff he continues to make his recovery from the surgery and he eventually wins that job. But I think Ashby's going to be the number 5 starter. I at least like him. Struggled Sunday, pitched 2/3 of innings, gave up 4 runs, struggled 3 hits, 27 pitches. That would be it. The number 5 starter. But no, we haven't seen much so far. It's hard to see what the negatives were going into the season, that they never fixed the third base spot, and that we got Oliver Dunn and Caleb Durbin right now platooning over at third base. But that would be it. Otherwise, early on, I just think Ashby having a rough outing on Sunday. What about you guys?
Honestly, the guys that have struggled so far, and I remind people that at this point of spring training, usually the pitchers are way ahead of the hitters, so you don't see a lot of big offensive games from anybody, like any of the teams around the league. But most of the guys that have gotten dinged up pitching-wise have been guys that aren't really a part of this team yet anyway. Most of these guys are going to be AA guys or AAA guys. They're coming in the 6th and 7th innings for a reason. So they're not the guys that you're overly concerned about. I haven't seen a lot out of Nolan Gorman yet, which is we're really worried about him because the strikeouts were so bad last year that he ended up going back down to AAA. And he's the guy that's supposed to take over if not whoever got traded. They really want to see him do well, and they believe in him, and the talent is there. The pop is there. He's certainly a guy that's got 35, 40 home run power. But so far, we haven't seen much out of Nolan Gorman thus far at spring training. But again, very, very early. But, you would love to see him at least get a hold of 1 or 2 thus far, even if he's, 2 for 7 or 8 at the plate. Yeah. If 1 or 2 of those is a double and a dinger or something, you're feeling a little bit better about him. But so far, haven't seen much at the plate, at least at the time of this recording. They're still playing right now against Toronto. But nothing overly concerned. Yeah. When you're looking at your team thus far, what is the biggest question? Is it still third base going into the season, where that's going to be a big black hole for you guys if they don't do something? Without
question. Third base was a hole in the offseason. I still think it remains to be a hole, even with what they have over there. I want to see Rhys Hoskins bounce back from what he did last year. He batted like 214, 26 home runs, 84, 85 RBIs. RBIs is fine. Home runs, I want to see him in the mid-30s, get that batting average up a little bit. Rhys Hoskins, I think I want to see him turn it around. So, as well as the closer spot, Trevor McGill he did a nice job filling in when Devin Williams was
really good last year.
He was. He's 6'8", he throws 100. That's a good start right there. And
you'll take that.
22 saves last year. So I think those are a couple of question marks and how they're going to replace Willie Adames, missing 32 home runs, who's now in San Francisco. So I think that's a start for my biggest concerns. What about you guys with the Cardinals?
You're still trying to figure out the offense. I think starting rotation is kind of set up the way it's going to be, barring any injuries. You like what you saw out of Steven Matz, but you just prepare yourself for him to get hurt at some point or another. I hate to laugh about that, but it's just his track record. I mean, he's always going down with injuries, so he's not somebody you can rely on. And what's good for the Cardinals this year is because Sonny Gray didn't want to get traded, and because Eric Fetty didn't get moved this offseason, the Cardinals actually have a decent amount of depth at starting pitcher to begin the season in case one or two guys do get injured early on, which normally happens, whether it's some sort of oblique or a sore shoulder. Last year, Sonny Gray got hurt and had a little hammy issue in spring training, and it delayed his start to the season. So, but as of right now, everybody's pretty healthy. Fingers crossed it stays that way. You know, the bullpen, they're still figuring out who those, fifth and sixth type of guys are going to be out there. You know, you kind of got your core four that you think are going to be the main guys with Helsley and Fernandez and Romero and, Liberatore obviously has looked really good in the pen last year. You've got a John King. So what are those other spots going to be? That's something that I'm interested in seeing what they end up doing there, who wins those battles. And again, how are they going to get at bats for all of these guys that they want to see play all the time? You know, you've got exciting talents like Victor Scott II, who's one of the fastest guys in all of baseball, hit a home run, had a triple in today's game. You get excited about it. Last year, he made the opening day roster and was a massive disappointment offensively. He wasn't ready yet. So he had a really tough year last year, not only with the Cardinals, but also down in the minor leagues. So Michael Ciani played Gold Glove defense last year in center field. Seems to me to be more of a bench guy is where he belongs. And, with Nolan Arenado not leaving, that means Gorman's going to have to play second, which means the second baseman is Donovan, who's going to go to left field, which means Nootbaar is going to shift over to center. Jordan Walker is going to get most of the starts in right field, which means Alec Burleson, who led the team in home runs last year, he's going to end up being on the bench. It's kind of crazy. They almost don't have enough room for all of these guys that they want to see play. So it's going to be very interesting for manager Ali Marmol to figure it all out.
Well, we got several meetings during the season. I haven't even checked when our first Brewers Cardinals match.
I haven't gotten there yet, so I'm not the Yankees. I'm not entirely sure yet. I know it's we don't start with you guys, so that's but there will be many matchups throughout the year, and of course, Chuck, me and you will get together and we'll have our Locked On crossovers throughout the year, discussing what it's going to look like between the Cardinals and the Brewers in 2025. So appreciate you hanging out, Chuck.
Let's hope you were talking about the trading deadline a while ago. Let's hope we're not sellers. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to be at that point in July. I think let's hope we're the guys trying to add on and surprise some of these people. And as long as the Cubs are losing, I think me and you will be happy. Oh yeah, we got a common denominator. We both hate the Cubs.
All right, remember, give Chuck a follow on Twitter and on X. Locked On Brewers as well. Give him a follow on the YouTube and, of course, on all the other social media areas. Subscribe on YouTube, and make sure you guys are following us as well on X at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. Again, TikTok, Instagram. We're all over the place this year. You cannot get away from the Locked On Podcast Network. We will find you. All right, guys. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon on Locked On Cardinals and Locked On Brewers.